let's move on to another controversy which actually also happened on Twitter. And that is of Congress MP Shashi Tharoor tweeting a picture of him along with 6 other parliamentarians, his colleagues from the parliament, 6 women colleagues, 6 women parliamentarians. And the caption that he put out along with it said, "Who says Lok Sabha isn't an attractive place to work?" The minute he put this out, there was massive set of reactions coming in. Twitter divided, citizens divided, politicians, women parliamentarians divided on whether or not this was an appropriate tweet. Many said it was sexist, the others said it was highly inappropriate, reducing parliamentarians, women parliamentarians of our country to just being attractive. And that being the reason for anybody to wanting to come to work, which in this case for Shashi Tharoor is the parliament. So we're going to talk about this and bringing you some views. This is a highly controversial and divisive issue. Many women parliamentarians have also come to his rescue to say that it's all fine, we are overreacting and outraging. What does Shashi Tharoor have to say in his own defense or as a clarification? Well, he tweeted saying, "This whole selfie thing was done in great good humor. The women MPs were the ones actually who asked me to tweet it in good spirit. I'm sorry if some people are offended, but I was happy to show the work camaraderie. That's all this is." Now, to many, this seems as if he's still not understanding why it could be inappropriate. And I'm not just talking about what should be the rule or the protocol or the norm or the mindset inside our parliament, but across all workplaces. To be able to know what is appropriate to be said or not. Is it appropriate to put a picture with 6 of your women colleagues and say, "Who says my workplace isn't attractive?" That's essentially what it boils down to. Is this problematic or not? Let's ask the ladies who are joining me this evening. Karuna Nandi, senior advocate with the Supreme Court. Brinda Adige, women rights activist. Charu Pragya of the BJP. Ms. Nandi, let's start with you. And what did you think of the picture and the caption when you first saw it?
I didn't realize that it would be so controversial to object to it, to be honest. I thought it would just be a sort of natural reaction, you know. And that he misspoke and that he would genuinely from the heart apologize and then we would all move on. But that didn't happen.
You're welcome to the age of social media where no matter what your reaction is could also lead to a lot more of reactions.
Yeah. I'm an advocate at the Supreme Court or senior lawyer. So here's the thing. Obama had said something similar to Kamala Harris in about 2013. He said that not only is she the most brilliant attorney general, but she's also the best looking in 2013. And there was, again, the same amount of divisiveness. And I was on Twitter at the time and I was thinking, I'm not sure how I feel about this, right? Whether it's a problem or not. So I went and did some research and I looked into the issue. Of course, that was less controversial because he also said that she was the most brilliant, you see?
Yeah.
He was also congratulating her on her work. And there were actually lots of studies to show that when you are commenting on a woman's looks, if she is a politician, that she is, by a statistically significant margin, less likely to be elected to office. If you are in the context of the workplace, commenting on a woman's looks, if you say, "Oh, she's so hot," for example, she is less likely, depending on how extensively that comment is heard, etc., and by who, she's less likely to be promoted and she is less likely to receive a significant pay raise. Given that we have these enormous gender gaps and given actually that work has been done on these issues, I think it's important to speak about it and to make sure we don't say this sort of thing, you know, and to say when there are women leaders who have been elected, whether or not they are former actors, that two of these women are former actors from West Bengal. They have all been elected. They are political leaders. The gender gap in parliament is absolutely massive. I think it's important to call it out. Even if it's somebody like Shashi Tharoor, who has in fact proposed as a private member's bill an equality bill. And I think it's important to say that because he's done that. And he has also, and I have on the same bill, championed a anti stalking bill. So he's done important work in this area. The thing is that I think a lot of us live with internalized patriarchy, and we must support each other to take it down. On a day that democracy broke down in parliament, and on a day that the farm laws were repealed by a voice vote, a lot of people were saying that this is hardly something to speak of. Look, I think the main headline in all of the news should really be the breakdown of democracy and the fact that 12 MPs were suspended and that these issues are sort of taking place.
Sure.
Something, Tanvi Shukla, the women's issues are always swept under the carpet because there's something more important going on. So I think on a subsidiary note, it's important to mention this.
Yeah, no, I would say that it's not even a fair comparison to be made. Of course, there are big issues of national importance in regards to our parliament that must be discussed. And I don't want to sit here and analyze what Shashi Tharoor thought or didn't think, or who he is, and is he really inherently this person or not. But if this is symptomatic of a larger trend or an issue that we see in our country, symptomatic of how in many other workplaces as well, even the flag bearers and the leaders of equality and gender equality don't realize often the comments that they make. And that's because here as well, Charu Pragya, his response seems to suggest, oh, it was all in good humor. Maybe even those who posed with him, the women themselves, don't see it as problematic because they're also conditioned that way.
You've hit the nail right on the head. The problem is this subtle sexism that exists. It is so subtle that sometimes people don't even realize that they are falling prey to it. Sometimes they don't even think that what they are saying is actually discriminatory in a way, because women politicians, women in all fields actually, let me not generalize it to only politicians, work very hard to be looked upon as someone who have earned their place with merit, with qualifications which have nothing to do with their gender. So why is it, and I always ask this, why is this that it's all about women politicians? Why not just politicians? And here we are working hard to get rid of that woman tag, to be looked upon as people, as meritorious politicians, and there will come along a person who doesn't even realize maybe that he's being sexist, but he is, and he will talk about how attractive a place becomes by having women colleagues. So is that the role of women in a place as serious as the parliament, in a place where laws are being framed to give women a better platform of equality? It does not suit the place from where this tweet came out. It wasn't at a party in his house. It was in parliament, and that offends me the most. I think there has to be more respect. There has to be more equality there. And if all the hard work that is being done is being labeled as attractive presence, that's bad. And I just want to add one more thing. Forget about the men who say things and get away with it. It's also the women who are selective about minding these statements.
Yeah.
So sometimes there was a clubhouse chat that was leaked. You'll remember that conversation, Tanvi, because I remember we were on a debate with regards to that, and there was conversation about a section of people raping a section of women who follow a certain ideology. And I'm not getting into politics of it, but why were the women on that chat so comfortable with it? Why are women so selective when it comes to allowing who gets away with a sexist comment and who doesn't?
Yeah, okay. So one part is to know and to recognize what is appropriate and not appropriate. You may share a great equation with these women, but when you are at workplace, what you should be saying or not saying, and what are you recognizing them for, Brinda DK? If the caption said, "I'm here with a bunch of great parliamentarians who pick up each policy issue or are great debaters or researchers or policy makers, something to do with their work. Maybe it obviously wouldn't have been as problematic as saying they make the workplace attractive to me.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And like the earlier two panelists have mentioned, talk about our potential, talk about the work capabilities, talk about what is being called out everywhere, rather than objectifying. In another debate, somebody said, don't use this word objectifying, but that's exactly what it is. And like Karuna and you mentioned, we women are also conditioned, and there is a lot of unlearning that must be done by us, but we refuse to do it because women who uphold patriarchy, women who uphold this kind of language and attitude are supposedly considered good women. And everybody wants to be considered good women. And that is why that particular tweet with that sentence or phrase is not acceptable. The other thing that we need to understand is even the women and themselves coming up and saying, but we don't mind. That is wrong. We mind. You are our elected representatives. So you cannot go stand there and say, but we as women don't mind. You should mind, because we mind. We, the voters, mind. And when you go there and make this kind of a statement, the big problem is what is going to be our policy? What is going to be inside that policy when you are talking about gender equality, gender justice, treating men and women and other gender people equally? What does that mean to you? Because we, your voters, want to be treated equally in every which way that you think. And if you are going to be making policies to say that the workplace has become attractive because of A, B, C, D, and because they are women, that is absolutely an issue that I or so many of the other women in this country, especially citizens, voters, are not accepting. We do not want to accept that humor in good faith, it was just done in camaraderie. No, you don't do those things in camaraderie. You are our elected representatiors. And that means
you need to send an example.
Constitution.
Yes, you need to send an example. You need to lead from the front. And if you're going to talk about bringing about that change and awareness, then it needs to be in every aspect of what you do, because people are watching you and people are going to take their cues from that. I'm going to thank all of you for joining me right now. My apologies, we had to cut this short because of the breaking news that came in earlier. But I think even Mr. Tharoor has possibly not understood why those who were objecting to it did so. And it wasn't because of politics or because they necessarily wanted to target him or that they were overreacting. The ideal point and response would not just have been to say it was all done in good jest or humor and they in fact asked me to do so. Would be to say I now recognize that as times change, we also need to change of how we react, respond, interact with our co-workers and be sensitive to who they are and not just reduce them to being an attraction at workplace. Because that's essentially the message I got when I first read it. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation.